Hi. Hi, everybody. Uh, for those of you who have never actually seen me live on Instagram, which I don't do very often, I should do more of. I'm Julie Garnyé. I'm a singer, an actor, a voiceover artist, producer, writer. I do a lot of different things. And I'm here with my friend, the amazing teacher, mentor, actor, voiceover artist, David H. Lawrence the 17th. I wanted to bring him on to talk a little bit about this masterclass that he teaches that is so incredible. It's called the ACX Masterclass. And David, for those people who don't know, what is ACX and why should they be on it if they're an actor and possibly considering doing audiobook?
Yeah, so ACX, I describe it as a like Tinder for audiobook narrators and audiobook and book writers.
Amazing.
Because it's like a dating service. It's like a way to match up people who are looking to get their book narrated into an audiobook with people who do it. There's no swiping involved, as far as I know. But it's a way to match up people with the kinds of voice talent that writers and authors and publishers need. And ACX was created by Amazon. It was actually nudged. Audible was nudged by Amazon once they purchased them to say, hey, we need to get all these millions of Kindle books that we have with our Kindle authors made into audiobooks. Let's set up a little platform. We've got AWS. We know how to use it. And I was one of the first, I think first 110, they invited about 110 narrators back in 2011 to be on the platform. And I was one of those people. And it was great. It was like the perfect combination of performance, actors access, breakdown services, and, my life in the digital world. And what I've done since then is teach people how to use it well, because there's no requirements, there's no licensing, there's no certification, there's no testing. It doesn't cost you anything to be on it. And you really are competing against some people who should not be allowed anywhere near a microphone in some cases. So I try to teach people how to use it well and use it effectively. And luckily, I'm in the same community here in LA than you are, the performer community. And it's just filled with people who would be great at doing audiobooks, and they have.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I started studying with you in like 2010, maybe 2011, when you were teaching classes in person at this
Yeah.
like donut shop. I think it was a donut shop, or
I
it's
think
a
it was
donut.
next door to a donut shop, but close
Okay.
enough. I was right next to the Crullers for
Oh,
most of the classes. So
it was really convenient for donut lovers
mm.
to to pop into class, record some audiobook samples as well as commercials, and you really created a community for us actors that were looking to understand and learn more about voiceover and audiobook and IVR and so many other things. What the heck is IVR? Can you tell people what IVR is?
Well, IVR doesn't have anything to do with audiobooks, but I can say what it is. It's when you call the bank and you hear a recorded voice going, your balance is -$5.12. I'm sorry, you're overdrawn. You know, it's that kind of thing. Yeah, we were teaching commercials and IVR and narration. Um, and then, yeah, it was crazy. I moved here in 2003, and I started going to places like the Actors Network to learn the business, and to workshops. And I was, people were noticing that I was doing things in voiceover, and they're like, where did you learn how to do that? How do you do that? And finally somebody said, you should teach a class on that. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I did.
Well, they were awesome, and they still are. Um,
Thanks.
and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here. I don't ever do this. You and Michael Kostroff are the only two teachers that I actually will promote and talk about your classes, because I've literally learned so much from you, and my career has been forwarded by what you teach and what Michael teaches, with his Audition Psych 101 classes and other things. So it's really important to me that people understand and know that you're a resource and that you're here, and that they can do this from anywhere. That's the best thing about it, is that you've made it. Back in the day, you had to be in Los Angeles to take class with you. Now they can do it from anywhere, and it's so incredible. Talk to me a little bit about the ACX masterclass classes. It's a
Yeah.
4-week program, right?
Yeah, well, it's a 4-week program plus, because we hold the class live throughout the month of February. So it's coming up this coming Monday. We're going to start, and we do live classes and Q&As on Monday and Thursday. But we also release multiple days during the week. We release new training content that's been pre-recorded or is text-based or whatever. Everybody learns differently, and so we have all kinds of different modes of learning: video, audio, text, etc. And then you have access to that material for life. I mean, it's like, we don't want people to think, oh, I got to cram this learning into 1 month, because it's a lot of stuff. We go from how to get an account on ACX, how to make that account effective, how to write your profile, how to make a great profile picture. We want you to put your best foot forward when you first meet people who may end up being your clients. And then we teach you how to look for auditions, how to avoid scams, how to either accept or decline an audition, a booking for an audition.
Mm.
And here's the thing: right at that point, there's a very interesting moment, because there are hundreds of thousands of narrators on ACX. And as I said earlier, some of them are not really narrators. They're like auto repairmen who woke up one Tuesday morning and were sick and tired of getting grease under their fingernails. And they're like, how hard could audiobooks be? Right? I'm going to be a narrator myself. Yeah, you bet. So when you go on and you have just a little bit of training, not the amount of training that we give you, which is great, but just a little bit, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. And if you have good training on the performance, well, forget about it. Now you're in a very small minority that knows what they're doing, knows how to take care of a rights holder for the project, knows how, and then we show you how to produce the audiobook work to the technical specifications of ACX and Audible, so that when you're done, they can immediately put it up for sale. We show you how to deal with your rights holder and keep them in comfort and sane and understanding about the process and so on. And then we talk about how to promote what you do, the books when you're done, how to do a trailer for the book, how to make sure that you can do this again and again and again. It's not just setting up your equipment once, doing one book, tearing everything down, and then moving on with your life. We want you to turn this into a business. And we're really, really careful about the technical side of things. Now, because you took classes with me, that I have a method called the stair-step method that really increases the velocity of your ability to work. You look in audiobooks, a lot of people think to themselves, oh man, audiobooks, way too hard, not enough money, too much work. And that can be the case. I have a method called the stair-step method that increases your speed so you can do more books in the same amount of time and at the same level, the high level of quality. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the joyous moments of my life when like you talked about Michael Kostroff, when he discovered the stair-step method. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He has 3 books out now, including others.
And he's not pushing it.
No.
He's not pushing the process. I'm sorry, I talked right over you. You and he have a book, the Stage Actor's Handbook, and
so in audiobook format, which we did on ACX.
Yeah, and he's got a couple of his own books, and he did them himself in his closet, where we show you where to find a place in your home that makes sense, that can be quiet. Anyway, there's a lot of moving parts to it, and what we try to do is make sure that the machine and the gears and the cogs all move as smoothly as possible.
Amazing. I mean, let's get back to what you just said about finding a place in the home. And one of the things that I love about ACX Masterclass is that you not only provide the knowledge, you also provide the equipment. Am
Mm-mm.
I? No, is that wrong? That's
That's
totally
for
wrong.
VO Heroes.
Oh,
I
heroes.
have a partner. I have a partner, Dan O'Day. He's a cheap bastard. There's no equipment being given here. But
Good.
the good news is you can outfit your entire studio with the same gear that I use. The same, I'm talking like exactly the same microphone,
I use the
exactly
same.
the same earbuds
Yep.
for around $100.
So
And
you don't
people
need
hear that,
$2 and a vocal booth and all that stuff to do audiobooks at home. You can.
right, you can, but you don't need to. And usually, and I people are like, just, they're like, they shudder in disbelief. They're like, wait a minute, I thought, what is that, a USB microphone? You're not supposed to be using a USB microphone. Well, if you understand how USB microphones, the good ones, and there are a few good ones, are built, they take a studio mic and the guts of an interface, and they take the interface and put it in the bottom of the studio mic. Now, I'm not talking about USB microphones like the headset mics that you would wear to play Call of Duty. I'm talking, and I'm not talking about cheap ones like a Blue, a Yeti, or any
Snowball, those called?
Snowball. No,
Yeah.
no, they're cute. That's why Apple sells them in the Apple Store, but they're not great. And the microphone that we use, which I'll just share with you right now, is the AT2020 USB Plus from Audio Technica. Yeah, yeah, she goes like this. I'm crawling
I
because it's so
love
good.
I love that mic. I travel with it because as a working actor, I travel a lot. And I've got 2 shows I'm doing this year out of state, out of California. And that AT2020 USB mic is coming with me. It's coming with me. And it's my original one. I mean, I have not upgraded. I am using the one I used back when I was studying with you, and it's great. My voiceover agent has no problem with the quality. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny. I during the pandemic, one of the big publishing houses, big, like the biggest, um, all of a sudden started getting narrators to do work from home, and you know, smartly, they said, "So what do you have at home? What are you doing? You give us a sample. Make sure we know." So I sent them in a sample, and they said, "Oh, what kind of mic is that?" And I told them, and they said, "No, it's not. No, it's not." And I'm like, "It's not? Okay. Give me something that you just gave me, and I'll voice it and send it back to you." And because I didn't want them thinking, "Oh, he did that on some like Neumann U87 like I got on the shelf that I haven't used in 10
Dollar
years."
condenser mic, right?
Yeah. And so I did, and he wrote me back. He goes, "This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy that this is this good. This is great. This is fine." And I was approved. And so, y- you know, the general rule is never use a USB microphone. They're talking about the $20, $30, $40 microphones. And the sad thing was, for a while there, Audio Technica was only charging about $60 for the AT2020 USB Plus. I couldn't even argue, just look at the price. The price will tell you whether it's better or not.
Yeah.
So now it's back up to 100. But anyway, it's a great mic. It lowers the risk level for people because you're not spending thousands and thousands of dollars just on your microphone. And just because maybe you don't like this when you're, all the way through it and finished with it, and you've decided you're going to make audiobooks, and then you realize, oh, there's going to be some work involved here. So we try to lower your risk, and we try to raise your upside with the class, with the ACX Masterclass. And we're in registration mode right now. Julie has a special link for you. It's acxmasterclass.com/Julie. And if you use that link to get information about, it's not going to put you in the class right away, but you'll get all the information that you need. If you do so before, as we're recording this, as we're doing this live, tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Pacific, that cheap bastard of a partner and I will pay your first $300 of your tuition. So it's worth going and checking it out.
Absolutely. Okay, so I put it up on the screen. Obviously, I'm gonna keep it there for a while. It's not hard to remember. acxmasterclass.com// my name, Julie. And everything you need is there, including there's a little link there that will talk about there's 3 free videos that David has done. They're amazing, talking about the class, talking about what ACX is.
The world of
There's
audiobooks.
the world of audiobooks. There's so much information there. Here's another thing that I think a lot of people, it keeps a lot of people from actually doing audiobook. Do they need to hire a producer or a team or like a director, someone to help them put all of this together? Or is that also something that you help them with in the class?
Absolutely. They do not need to hire an editor, a producer, a director. What we teach in the class is we teach you how to fish. We don't fish for you. We don't tell you where to find a fisherman with a boat. We actually teach you how to go looking for jobs, secure those jobs on ACX and elsewhere. At the very end of it, we have a whole segment called Beyond ACX, which is how to go work for other people who do audiobooks, the big publishers, the big production platforms, and so on. We show you how to get that work. We show you how to record, edit, and master that work to ACX's standards, which are Audible standards, the same standards that you hear anytime you go on audible.com and you click on a sample button. Your stuff is going to sound as good or better than theirs. And we show you how to do that so that you have a built-in process, a built-in set of skills that you can use anywhere, anytime, any category of book, doesn't matter. Everything from nonfiction, business, mysteries, young adult, erotica, whatever
Self
you want to do. What?
self-help.
Self-help. There are probably, I don't know, 30, 40 main categories of audiobooks. And the growth in audiobook sales continues. You would think that at some point there was a saturation level, and it isn't even close. Like, since the invention of the smartphone and the ease with which people have in getting audiobooks, like if I decide I want to get the Stage Actor's Handbook at 10 o'clock in the morning one morning, I can have it playing on my phone by 10:01 or less, because I just tap on it and it starts to download, and then it says, oh, it's ready to play. You want to play it? Boom, there you go. That kind of friction-free acquisition process has what's really fueled the boom of audiobooks. And every time a book comes out, you'll notice, especially from the big publishers, for sure from the big publishers, you'll notice that an audiobook was produced leading up to the release of the book as well. And so it's a multi-layer thing. It's kind of like, when you have a movie, there's always a delay between when it's in the theaters and when it's on cable, or when it's on a streamer, or it's on a streamer for money and then it's on a streamer for ads for free or whatever. There's always this delay. There's no delay. The demand is tremendous. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that my band of merry men and women, the students and graduates of the ACX Masterclass, are responsible for 1 out of every 30 audiobooks that have come out of ACX since 2016, when they started keeping track of this, and are available on Audible. Over 7,000 books available for sale on audible.com. And that, like, always makes me tear up, because the success of my students makes all the difference to me. I mean, it means the world to me. And when I hear you say things like you've been able to do well with it and stuff, it just sort of validates what we do. So
On your ACX Masterclass, I think it's on the acxmasterclass.com website. There's actually a list of all the students who've graduated, and some of them are,
and links to all their books,
yes, I
because
clicked.
that's one of the things that we do, is we help you promote your book once you get it out, or your books. We have students, I've been sharing this past week online, we have students that have hundreds of books out. And I'm like, wait, what? You did what? You did? That's great.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And with the publishing, it's interesting. When Michael and I published the Stage Actors Handbook, Michael's published three books before that one. And one of the things that he mentioned was that there's no money in publishing. I mean, unless you're like a huge author, a Dan Brown, a Michael Crichton, Stephen King, unless you're a huge author, you're not going to make money in publishing. So when we released the Audible, the ACX version of the audiobook last year, the checks have been coming in. And we are creeping closer and closer to making more money with the audiobook than with the physical actual book.
Yeah.
Now, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me want to write more books and
Yeah.
narrate them, or just narrate other people's, which
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. It's
which
funny,
is,
when ACX first started, they introduced a new way of making money with audiobooks. Before ACX was around, there was one way to get paid to do audiobooks, and that was what was called PFH, or per finished hour.
Mhm.
And it was usually around $150 per finished hour in those days that an audiobook narrator would get paid. And that was for the finished length of the book. So if the book was 10 hours long and you were paid $150 per finished hour, you would make $1,500 for the book once, which is great. ACX introduced what was called royalty share. And there you get 20% of whatever they collect on every copy of the book sold. And there were narrators who were like, I don't want to take that risk. I want to get paid. I want my money now. Okay. Well, I can tell you that the first 6 books that I did on ACX still to this day are kicking off enough cash to pay for my mortgage each month. And when you put them all together, it's probably 30 or 40 times what I would have made for that flat rate per finished hour work. And then you multiply that by the number of books that I've done on a royalty share, or now a royalty share plus basis, where you also get paid a little bit up front. And, I was comfortable with that. There are people who absolutely weren't, because they only knew one thing. They only knew one way of making money.
Mhm.
And I'm comfy with the whole .com revenue share thing. So and we teach you all about that in the acxmasterclass.com/Julie. We teach you all about that in terms of, how the business works, how you make money, the different ways to make money, how to negotiate with a rights holder if they're open to it, and really how to take care of them and how to take care of yourself. So there you go.
Amazing. Now, I want to talk about union stuff. Do you have to be union to do this? Are there non-union jobs? Like, how does all of that work if you're SAG-AFTRA or
Yeah.
non-union?
So if you are a union member, you're used to, and you do on-camera work, you're likely used to the concept of what's called Global Rule 1, which covers primetime television and commercials and so on. If you're a union member, you can't work on non-union jobs. That's one of the tenets of Global Rule 1. That only is applicable to areas of work in the union that use blanket contracts. So there is one contract that covers all networks, all streamers, called the Primetime TV Theatrical Contract. That was the contract that we struck over the summer and fall.
Mm-hmm.
Audiobooks have a completely different framework for their contracting, and Global Rule 1 does not apply in audiobooks. Now, that doesn't mean that the union is somehow encouraging union members to do non-union work. The thing with audiobooks is they're not union or non-union. Like, there's no union audiobooks. Oh, and over here there's non-union audiobooks. That's not what happens there. All audiobook projects are label free, which means union members or non-union members can take any book project. But if you are in the union has hundreds of individual contracts with Audible, with Penguin Random House, with ACX, with recorded books, with Tantor, with publishers and platform producers like Dion. Each one is individual, and if the book project pays you at a minimum rate, well, then you can get health and retirement. You can get into the union. It used to be, remember when people wanted to get into the union and people would say, oh, go do a web series. I don't know if people watching this know that, but that was what they would use. If you want to get into the union, go do a web series.
Oh,
Now,
work, right?
or what?
Background work was another
Yeah,
one.
or background work and get your vouchers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But now, the easiest way to get into SAG-AFTRA is to do one union covered, meaning you get paid enough to be above the minimums or at the minimums for union work, one audiobook. You do that, you're in.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. And
that's amazing.
but the answer to your question is no union member, nobody who's non-union needs to worry at all about union status when it comes to audiobooks, because the projects aren't identified that way like they would be. There's no network television project that isn't a union project, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there may be, some online, some internet, some streaming projects that are non-union. There are certainly films that are non-union that union members can't be in. Not the case with audiobooks. Anybody can take any project, doesn't matter.
Incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're sort of my voiceover guru, so I have sort of a blanket question for you, which is, what do you feel is the area of voiceover where an actor can make the most money?
Well, certainly you want to look to the areas that have the most opportunities. And that currently happens to be audiobooks. If you go on ACX and just do you do a search for available titles to audition for, because that's all you need to do on ACX. You don't have to be invited to audition for an audiobook. You can go audition for any audiobook that's available. And so if you go and look at it, it's usually between 850 and 4,000 titles available to audition for. So getting paid for an audiobook is a much easier process than going out and auditioning for a commercial or for a television show or for a radio spot or for documentary narration. Audiobooks has the most opportunity. And when you have a bit of training and you have a bit of talent, again, you stick out like this sore thumb. If you go and one of the exercises that we give students to do in class the very first week is, okay, go at random and find 5 samples that narrators on ACX have put up and listen to them for quality, for performance skills. Are you listening to the story, or are you saying to yourself, what did they record this with? Saran wrap? Again, people, unfortunately, who have no training, who don't know what they're doing, think to themselves, oh, how hard can this be? I'll just grab my headset microphone from when I played Call of Duty last night and I'll do an audiobook.
We'll read a book. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or they're very, very overt about their reading, way too dramatic, and they're not letting the listener enjoy the process. There's so many things about it. But that's the biggest area. That's the quickest path to but I will add a caveat here. You and I have been performers for decades. I think it would be safe to say this is not a business where you make your calculus on ROI, on return on investment. This is not something where you say, well, how quickly can I make my money back? Well, there's no answer to that. There really isn't an answer to that. You do this work because you're called to it, because it's inside you and it's going to burst out of you if you don't help it. It's one of those things where you want to be smart about building your business as a performer, but you cannot make this a vocational school equation. If you go to school to be an aeronautical mechanic, you pretty much have a path, right? You put a resume together, you go talk to Boeing, they hire you. Well, that's not how it works here. And we all know this because we go home for the holidays. And our families all try to apply blue collar or gray collar frameworks to what we do. Well, don't you want to be on that Saturday Night Live? Why don't you go sign up for that? Okay. All right. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll do that. they just don't understand. And we understand, but I just don't want anybody to sit there and go, okay, well, how long before I make my money back? Because this course is not inexpensive. Although it is less expensive for the next 18 hours or so.
Yep.
Yeah, I would want you to do this work because you just love it. You want to do it. You can tell stories. You've been telling stories your whole life. You're the man or woman over in the corner holding court, telling stories and making people laugh and making people tear up and making people think. I can tell you that there have been books that I've narrated that have changed my life. I narrated a book for PBS and ESPN called League of Denial, which is about the NFL's concussion crisis. And I had some tough days in my studio getting through some of the content of that book because it was so emotional. You learn things as you narrate books that make you a smarter person, that make you a balanced person, that make you an informed person, and that tug at your heartstrings sometimes. So for me, that's the reason to do this kind of work. And yeah, the money's great, but you really have to know what you're doing, and you have to make as few mistakes as you can and make as smart decisions as you can about your business to get there.
And I mean, I know for a fact that taking the masterclass, taking the ACX masterclass, you'll learn what those decisions are supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's the part that was always really confusing for me with ACX was sort of the back end part. Do I do royalty share? Do I do like all of those? And I know you go through those in the class, and those are the things that are really important. And also, like, what's a good book to narrate? Like, how do you choose the book?
Sure.
Because you're right. When you go into the back end of ACX, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of books that you can audition for. But then also when you have great samples, like I have really great samples, thanks to your guidance, I get offers. You also get offers. People say, I love your voice. I love the work you've done with your samples. I want you to narrate my book. It's not even like, don't audition. It's, here's my book. Can you do this?
Yeah.
Which is kind of great, because in a business where you're constantly hearing no, you're constantly seeking approval, you're waiting for someone else to hand you a job. It's, after auditioning, it's nice to just be able to have someone go, you're awesome. Here, do this.
Yeah, and knowing which ones to say thank you very much. I'm sure I'm sorry, but my dance card is full. I'm sure you'll find a number of wonderful narrators here on ACX, and the ones where you go, when would you like to start?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're more in the driver's seat with audiobooks than any other area of performance. That doesn't mean you have to, you can't, or you won't have to go looking for work, but it's a very different power differential between you and that industry as there is with primetime television or commercials or other areas of voiceover. So it just there's some, and we have students who've been through the course who've taken it upon themselves to become experts in certain parts of it. One of our students, Bob McCoy, is pretty snacky when it comes to knowing how to avoid scams online. He studies them, what the scammers are doing in terms of creating a book that doesn't really exist or using AI, and avoiding those projects. And if you want to talk about AI, I'm happy to do that as well.
I want to talk about AI. I'm so glad you brought it up, because it was one of my next questions.
Yeah, so artificial intelligence is impacting every aspect of our lives, whether we're performers or not. And in the world of performance, voiceover, synthetic voices is a whole lot easier for large language models, artificial intelligence models to generate than visuals, although that's getting there. It's one of the reasons we struck over the summer, is to fix that if we could. Not sure, but people are rightly concerned about this, and they should be. I will tell you that I've worked in voiceover since the mid 70s, and One of the areas that I've done a ton of work in is an area called IVR. And that's, as I said before, recorded phone prompts.
Mhm.
IVR has had, people who produce IVR phone trees have had the option of using artificial intelligence synthetic voices since the 80s. And in those days, it sounded bad. It was awful. It wasn't even close to the human voice. It was an 8-bit, like the Whopper computer on the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick. Do you want to play a game? As long as it was understandable, it was possible to do it. But there are companies who don't want their brand to be represented by an artificial voice. And I want you to take a moment, no matter how good the artificial intelligence created synthetic voices are, I want you to think for a moment about an author who has worked for months or years or decades on the book that they want you to narrate. It's their baby, it's their lifelong project. They likely don't want to just offload that audiobook project onto a synthetic voice. I've
Mhm.
heard authors say over and over again, why would I want that to be the case? Audible actually offers that option to authors on ACX and on Kindle. And they have about 8,000 or 10,000 book titles with what they call virtual voice in the marketplace. And the reaction to those books has been a resounding thud. They
Mm.
get bad reviews, people return them, people comment about them. So Audible is learning that listeners, just like listeners don't want music in their audiobooks, they don't want certain things about audiobooks to change. They don't like virtual voices and they don't like synthetic voices. And they're good. Synthetic voices are really good. They can't carry a long form tune. They don't know that at the very end of the book, the mother is going to be revealed as the actual killer. They don't know that stuff. They don't get, and will likely never get, some nuances of how we as humans tell stories. Now, will the voices get better? Because a lot of people are just judging AI voices based on how close they are to their human counterparts. Will they get better and closer? Sure. But it only takes a few minutes for a listener to realize that this is a synthetic voice. And now they have that in their head for the rest of the time that they're listening. And so, yes, there's a threat. And in some cases, there are authors who don't give a crap. They don't care. They want to save money. They want to get, they'll do that. But those aren't jobs you would have gotten anyway.
Mhm.
And so I have not noticed a downtick in demand for what I do. I'm watching very carefully on this, and I'm in the union. I'm on 2 committees right now that are very, very closely watching AI and helping guide the union leadership on how we do things with AI. And I understand that people are concerned about this. I think that some of their concerns may be a little bit overblown, and in some cases a lot overblown. And I also think that the projects that matter will always be created on a bespoke level by human beings. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you for all of that, because I think and when I went home for the holidays, that was a big question. Like, the strike is over. Can you explain to us the AI situation? You
yeah.
know, for the muggles in our life, the people that are not in the business, who don't understand how AI can impact us. You
Sorry, I'm
laughing at
laughing at muggles.
muggles? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It is impactful, but the thing that I love is that you're absolutely right. We are storytellers. Audiobook, it's based on that, and having a human touch, a human connection to the storytelling that's being told is of the utmost importance to, I hope, most authors, when
Yep.
they're seeking out a narrator.
Yep.
um, okay, I have another question, completely unrelated to AI, which is, I'm a voice teacher. I teach private singing,
Singing. Singing.
voice
Yep.
singing, voice teacher,
Yep.
not vocal, not voiceover, but singing. And I have a lot of students who are a little bit nervous about technology. They're scared.
Mm.
They think that they have to know Pro Tools or
Yep.
Logic Pro X or other robust, digital audio workstations,
Yep.
DAWs, as we call them, in order to create audiobooks. And I keep telling them it's not necessary. You don't need those two major pieces of software or to understand them to create audiobooks. Can you explain a little bit more about why that is, what they can use? Not necessarily the names of the products, but you can if you want. But
Oh, I
if you,
want to name the products.
oh, great, do.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Look, when you go to the workbench or you go to your kitchen cabinet and pull out the toolkit that you have, or you go to your silverware drawer and you decide what you're going to grab to eat your meal, not everything is going to be able to be handled well by a knife. And there's a famous phrase that says, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And Pro Tools and Logic and Nuendo and Sibelius and what else have I used? Studio One and audio. What's Adobe's Adobe Audition, which used to be called Cool Edit Pro, and before that, Cool Edit. I've been using DAWs for a long time, and when I created the stair step method, I did it around a very simple piece of software that's absolutely free called Audacity. And that to me is the right tool for this job. Audacity is not only free, but it's easy to get, it's easy to install, it's easy to learn. It's got a huge base of users. The company that is now managing, its growth does an amazing job of keeping on top of bugs and so on. And so it's as well supported as any of the for pay products that you would buy. And, I'm going to tell you, I'm a DigiDesign certified engineer from back in the day. I'm an Avid certified engineer, so I know Pro Tools very, very well. I haven't launched Pro Tools in over a decade because what we do for voiceover work doesn't require Pro Tools. If you're going to sweeten a movie or you're going to do a piece of music with multiple instruments and multiple vocals and you're going to do all kinds of takes, that's great. We lay down single track mono dry voiceover. That's what we do. And Audacity is really, really good at that. It records audio just as well as Pro Tools or Logic or any of those other platforms. And again, it doesn't cost you anything. So that's what we teach in the course. And 99% of the options that you have with one of those bigger digital audio workstations, you don't need for what we do when we're doing auditions or when we're doing audiobook work. And I also have a piece of software that takes care of all of the making it perfect for Audible. You have to have technical requirements that you meet with your work to have Audible say, okay, yeah, this is good. We're going to put it on sale in our marketplace. And I created a piece of software called Audio Cupcake, where you basically edit your chapter, you get it finished, you get all the errors out, and we show you how to do that very, very easily. Michael, again, when he figured out what we were doing with the stair step method and the command key combinations, I don't know if you use the command key combinations, but they make it even faster. You take that edited piece of work and you drop it on Audio Cupcake, and out pops an MP3 file that meets Audible standards and that you can instantly upload to ACX and know that it's going to pass their QA, their QC, their quality control, and it's going to be released for retail sale. So you don't need to know those big packages. You wouldn't be using the stuff that those big packages are known for. You just need Audacity, and that's what I use. I eat my own dog food. That's the only way I can position this. I use the tools that I teach my students how to use. I don't say, "Hey, use this beginner microphone. I'm going to use that Neumann U87." It's
Right.
okay. I use what I teach. So maybe I'm just a cheap bastard.
No, I mean, I have to tell you, Audio Cupcake saved my life. It is the greatest. It's the best. I used it on the Stage Actors Handbook.
Okay.
It's fantastic. I love Audio Cupcake. It's so easy to use.
Yep.
You literally, just what you said, you just drag the file once it's edited. That one chapter, you drag it into Audio Cupcake. It pops out an MP3. you load it into ACX, and all of a sudden you've got a book on
Yeah.
Audible. It's
Yeah.
so easy. It
Yeah.
it really does make it easy. Amazing. Can we talk
By the
about?
way, we give Audio Cupcake to all of our students as part of the project.
Well, there you
So
go.
as part of the course, yeah. So just so
So
you
you,
know, there's a couple of
yes.
things we give people. I don't know if you still use the mic sock that I gave you, but
Uh-huh.
yeah,
I
so
still
we
have
give
that
them that.
original sock. I don't
What?
use a like a fluffy pop cover or anything fancy. I just stick the sock on there.
Great. Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
it's good. Fantastic.
Um, are there awards for audiobook?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's some coming up here a week from Monday called the Audis here in Los Angeles. Usually it's held in New York, but like the Oscars or the Emmys, the Grammys,
The
Audis.
the
Uh,
Audis?
what?
The Audis are the big one, right? That's the
Yeah.
biggest. Yeah, I think I was in New York last year when the Audis were happening. I had a few friends who do audiobooks on a regular basis, and they were all in town from Los Angeles for the Audis.
Yep.
I do
Yeah,
know.
the Audis are just as prestigious, just as supportive and enhancing of your career as people will say audio award winning narrator, just like they say Academy Award winning actor. And so uh, those are handed out by the APA, which is the Audiobook Publishers Association. Um, we are very fortunate to have multiple audio award winners as graduates of the ACX Masterclass. We have audio award finalists. One of our students was nominated for an Audie with his very first book from his very first audition. And he's constantly saying that he was just flabbergasted by that. He's also constantly saying that if he had just kind of thrown a bunch of spaghetti against the wall to see what would stick with audiobooks, that wouldn't have happened, that finalist award would not have happened. And I think if you have just a little bit of knowledge, just a little bit of guidance in terms of how to build your business as an audiobook narrator, how to do the work itself, how to handle your relationship with your rights holder, it's going to save you so much agita, so much, oh my gosh, what should I do? Those moments can be debilitating. You go, well, how about if I just do nothing? Maybe I'll go do this over here that I know how to do. We want you to know how to do this and know how to handle situations. In fact, one of the things that we share, one of the lessons, I have a set of messaging that I use with my rights holders, where I tell them how I work. I have a welcome kit, and we show you how to build your welcome kit. We show you how to talk to them when they say things like, or when they're not responding, when they're not approving your chapters quickly enough so you can move on to the next one. Those are moments of human relations. And over the years, I've honed and refined those messages, and then I put them all in one big set, and I give them to you as a PDF file with the responses and the messages that I use, so that you are prepared for those situations where your computer crashes and you have to let your rights holder know there's going to be a delay in the process. Or even better, you took advantage of what we taught earlier in the course and you got stuff done faster so that in case there is tragedy, you can recover from it gracefully. We really examine what it's like to be an audiobook narrator and the pressure points, and we help you understand how to work with those, right along with how to tell stories, how to do fiction, how to do nonfiction, how to do the tech, how to do the equipment and all that. We help you build your business. And being a great team member, being a great guidance to the rights holder who likely has never done this before, most of the time. Some of them have, and maybe they've had bad experiences with other narrators. Here's your chance to be a superstar. We want you to be a narrator of choice for all of the people that you're going to be approaching. So, yeah.
I mean, it's just a rare thing as I'm listening to you talk about what actually happens during the course of the course. That most people they teach either the technique of voiceover, but you're actually teaching an overall it's career changing, because you're not just teaching the technique of actually creating the audiobooks, but also how to handle maybe a rights holder that's not quite great to work with or hard to work with, or you don't normally get that when
Yeah.
you're studying with someone about, I want to learn how to be an audiobook narrator.
Yeah.
You go to an actual in-person class, they're not going to teach you, oh, also, like, when this happens with the rights holder, or if there's a problem with this is how you fix that, or this is how you communicate in a way that is positive and forward motion, creating forward motion for the project, so you're not
Yeah.
getting.
Well, one of the hallmarks of what we've been doing, even back at the beginning, um, is me kind of taking a look at my daily life as an audiobook narrator and saying, oh, okay, so I did this today. Let's teach students how to do that. So, for example, in the very beginning, to kind of prime the pump on ACX, they had something called stipend projects.
Oh, I remember
And
those.
yeah, and stipend projects where you still make royalty share, so you get 20% of everything that they collect for each copy. But how about if we throw you $100 a finished hour at the very beginning, just to help you, make some money? And this was funded by Amazon Audible ACX. And then after a year or two, that kind of like went by the wayside. And I thought, there's going to be authors for whom getting somebody who knows what they're doing, who can get it done quickly and expertly, high quality, and do a great job and hold their hand along the way, might be worth them paying, the rights holder paying that stipend. And so we call that a hybrid stipend. And we taught that for the first 3, 4, 5 years that we had the class up and running, and I would tell people that's what I do. And then all of a sudden ACX introduced Royalty Share Plus, which is exactly what we were teaching long before that became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the rights holder's ability to pay you per finished hour in addition to the royalty share that you get. So every time I'm sort of introduces them, during the pandemic, we talked about how to deal with a remote director if you have that. And, how using Zoom is the easiest way to do it. They'd be sitting there with their mic muted, but listening for you to say Tuesday instead of Thursday as you read a sentence, and then popping in and going, hey, that was Tuesday. That kind of thing, how to deal with that sort of thing. And so I think as I look at how I do my business, that's the dirty little secret of my course. It's what I do, and that's what I teach. And I try to share everything I can, because the more information you have, the easier it is to make a decision about a project, the easier it is to handle the hand holding that you'll have with a rights holder, the process, getting work again from that rights holder, making them go, oh, you got to go talk to Julie. She knows what she's doing. I want all my students to have that said about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a remarkable thing. It's sort of in the same vein of when I'm teaching voice lessons. One of the reasons people come to me is because I'm not just sitting in a studio for 8 hours a day teaching. I'm auditioning, I'm performing, I'm always out there. And it's the same with you. You're always out there. You're doing audiobooks, you're doing voiceover. People not only come to you for your expertise, they come to you knowing that you're a part of the industry still, even now, and you're doing it with us at the same time. And
Yeah.
so you know what the trends are, you know what's happening, and you know how to deal with things as they happen, and you share that
Yeah.
information. It's really amazing.
Absolutely.
I've been looking at the comments. There really aren't any questions. So I'm going to say we're going to get close to wrapping up, but registration is open for the early registration, right? Where you and Dan are covering people's first $300 of tuition up until tomorrow night, Tuesday, the 30th, January 30th at 9 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah. And it's, by the way, it's a hard deadline. At 9 o'clock, the system automatically switches over to the full price. So instead of $19.95, which is still a bargain, between now and then it's $16.95. And it's, there are times when we hear students go, oh, this one part of the course was worth the price of admission. And there's dozens and dozens and dozens of those kinds of moments in the course. So use Julie's link, because it'll save you money. And you'll get started this Monday with everybody else, just like everybody else. Nobody knows who paid what. But we want you to be in part of what's going on.
It's so cool. I can't, like I said, I don't normally promote classes like this. But
We do have a
this,
question. I
oh,
see
we
a
do.
question in the
I
chat.
see.
When
Great.
will the pitch at Audible submission portal reopen? That's not part of ACX. I don't know that Audible in general has timelines for when they offer things and take things away, but ACX is separate from the Audible track. Although, when you learn how to work on ACX, those skills are transferable to working for Audible as a publisher slash producer, and for Penguin Random House, and for Tantor, and for Blackstone, and for Brilliance, and for all of the other production and publishing companies that do work for the big authors, or sorry, the big publishing houses. So I don't know. I don't think anybody can safely say what Audible does when. They're constantly trying things, playing with things, etc. But you know, like the people say, when are they going to bring back the 13-week package with Audible? Audible used to have a thing where they would hire you for 13 weeks for like $30,000, and you would do as many books as you could in those 13 weeks. They don't do that anymore very much. So there's a lot of things that happen in the industry that they try. You know, the pandemic changed a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah.
Amazing. Does anyone have any other questions? We've got like three,
Yeah,
four
put them in
minutes.
the comments below. If you're wondering how to ask the questions, put them in the comments,
We
because
should have set the start.
that's where we see things. Yeah.
No. And David's
Yeah.
open to answering every question, any
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Um,
So just to finish answering your question, yes. And we're going to close registration entirely on Friday at 9 p.m. because we start class on Monday. We start class on Monday. We do live classes on Mondays and Thursdays. All those classes are recorded, and you get the recordings the next day. There's study guides, there's gear, there's you know, advice on what to get, how to do the work. You know, we even go so far as to talk to you about the other platforms that you can then use your skills that you've acquired on, which you know, when you're going to work for, you know, a company like Audible, but not via ACX, when you're going right after them directly as a publisher. You know, some of the joys of this life is that there are so many inbound vectors of work other than ACX. It's not like what we teach you is only applicable to ACX, right? So yeah.
yeah, I actually used a lot of the techniques. A girlfriend of mine just wrote her first novel. And when she put it on Instagram, my novel's been published. I called her immediately. I was like, do you have an audiobook? And she said, no. Should I do that? I was like, no, I should do that for you.
Okay,
And we
that's
had
the
a
way to
meeting.
do it.
She now has an ACX profile as an author. The book is up. I'm going to be narrating it. She's writing the second book, so it's going to become a series for me as an audiobook narrator through ACX.
Yeah.
But I've been, you know, kind of holding her hand and talking her through how to become an ACX author, and, you know, and hire a narrator. And
Mhm.
you know, you can create your own work this way. It's, if you
One
know
of the
some
lessons, one of the lessons in the series is how to help an author offer you their title. And you'll find that happening so often. You'll find people who are artists in adjacent areas, you know, writers, narrators, writers, actors, and they don't know how to talk to each other sometimes. And it's like, you know, just having the entrepreneurial mind to say, hey, are you going to do this? The way I phrase it is, if you're not going to do it yourself, I'd love to audition for you. I'd love to do it for you. It depends on your relationship with them. um, I've picked up dozens of titles that way. And one time I picked up a title from the New York Times. I read an article in the New York Times about the undersea cables that carry internet traffic all around the world. You know, most people say it's all on satellites, and someday maybe Starlink will replace the undersea cables. But 99% of that internet traffic is carried by these big, thick cables that run along the bottom of the oceans and connect our continents together. I'm reading this article about it. Quotes a professor at NYU who wrote a book on it called The Undersea Network. And I went, oh, I want to listen to that book. And I went to Amazon to see it, and there was no audiobook. Okay, so she's an NYU professor. I go to the nyu.edu website and I look her up and I sent her an email and I said, "Are you going to do an audiobook of this?" And she wrote me back. And she goes, "Why would anybody be interested in an audiobook of this?" And I'm like, "Oh, are you kidding me?" I was interested. I went looking for it and I couldn't find it. So she went to her publisher, and about 3 months later, I get a note from Audible saying, "You've been selected as a narrator. Are you available to do this book called The Undersea Network?" She fought for me because she didn't have the rights for the book, but she went to the publisher, which was Duke University Press, and said, "I'd like David H. Lawrence XVII to do my book." And they picked me. Well, it's no skin off their nose, you know. And she went and listened to my titles, just like your friend would have listened to your samples. And from reading an article in the New York Times and knowing how to contact somebody, those little things make all the difference in the world when you are trying to build a business.
Absolutely. And this is why I love audiobooks so much, because we have more power as narrators than we do sometimes as actors or
Absolutely.
singers. Like, we really can take control of our work as creators. It's really fantastic. And so that's why I try to encourage as many people as I can to do audiobook and to study with you, because you're the master. You're the
Thank you.
master of this. You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here with me today and
Yeah.
all my questions. And you guys just acxmasterclass.com/Julie. Just go there. There's tons of information, 3 incredibly informative videos that you can watch that cover a lot of material. And yeah, you have till tomorrow night to get the generous discount from Dan and David, and then till Friday to register.
Mostly
Can't
Dan. He's the one putting the money in.
He's the one putting the money in
I
the
guess. I'll
the
just
extra.
say that. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thank you, Julie.
thank you, David. I appreciate you. You're the best. Bye.